The No Fate channel, checking in, and on this episode of Dad's Coffee Corner, I'm going to be talking about why I am transitioning away from the Keurig K-Cups that I have been using for years and moving towards a pour-over method for my coffee, and I'll take you through the process while I do it. So if this is your first time to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. On this series, I simply just do something coffee related. So the first step with regards to the pour over method is to get water, and I tend to get a little more water than I need because some of it's going to boil off and some of it you are going to use in order to kind of pat down the coffee filter. The next step is I actually use a gooseneck kettle pot. You can use a regular teapot, but I tend to find that you get a better flavor and a better pour of the water with that gooseneck kettle pot. And also, it tends to be more effective to have an electric one like this, which is super cheap. I'll link it in the description of this video because you just hit this button and it just heats up this water rather than having to heat up the whole stove. It ends up using less electricity and it ends up being quicker. So the main reason that I'm moving away from the K-Cups is twofold. Number one, first and foremost, is that my children are actually getting a little bit older. Not much, but enough that I've got just a tad bit more time on my hands. I even hate to say that out loud because I'm sure if the kids hear it, they'll try to take that time as well. But obviously the Keurig is great for the convenience of just simply hitting the button and off you go with your coffee, and the pour over does take a little bit more time. The reason I'm moving towards, that's one reason, is that I've got more time on my hands so that I can actually take the time to make the pour over coffee. The other reason is the fact that these K-Cups really aren't environmentally friendly. Obviously it has plastic and they have transitioned to being recyclable, but in reality most people throw these in the trash and don't recycle them. What we do in this family, even though we still are using Keurig K-Cups and we are, when the time needs, we do tend to use Keurig K-Cups, we will cut open the top and take out the coffee grounds and put them in a container to be put in the compost or to be put just directly onto the grass or the shrubs. I'm trying to kind of get as much use out of the K-Cups as possible. I've got like a stack over here that are waiting to be cut. I usually do like 4 or 5 at once. So we are trying to move away from using the K-Cups, and the pour over method is one way to be more environmentally friendly. One of the positives with regards to the pour over method is that it is also cheaper. The K-Cups tend to come in at between 40 and 50 cents per cup, depending on how big of a bulk you buy, what type you buy, whether you buy them at BJ's, whether you're getting Starbucks brand that I typically buy, or you're going with like a Solimo basement budget brand from Amazon. So it ends up being cheaper. So by maybe 10 cents a cup, 12 cents a cup, which certainly adds up over the course of time, but not necessarily the main reason that I'm doing this. So the first step I do is to simply put some of that boiling hot water into the filter, just to kind of pat that filter down and let it drain. And then once that's drained, now I use 2 tablespoons of coffee. Now 2 tablespoons of coffee does weigh 12 grams as measured. Now how many grams are actually in the K-Cups? Because obviously when you think of K-Cups, you just think of set it and forget it. The K-Cups brand can range between 8 and 12 grams. If you get the cheaper, or it's oftentimes like the more budget-friendly K-Cups will have will just have less coffee in them. Simple as that. The Keurig, the French roast Starbucks ones that I've measured do come in at 12 grams when you end up just pulling all that out of the K-Cup to weigh it down. So it is almost the same, or I would even say as close as you're going to get to being exactly the same for a pour over method. Again, the main reasons for the pour over method that I prefer are environmentally friendly. They do save a little bit of money, and it's the experience and the enthusiasm of actually doing the pour over. I find it to be very therapeutic because it does take a little bit more time and a little bit more patience. Also, I'm able to make the cup of coffee that I prefer, which ends up being a little bit stronger than what you can get from the Keurigs. I also tend to find it to be more fresh than the Keurigs for some reason. That might just be my personal preference or my own take on it. I don't necessarily think that these K-Cups are not fresh. I just happen to think that getting a bag like this, or even the bigger bags, as long as you seal them up correctly, does tend to lead to a better cup of coffee overall. Let me know in the comments below what you're doing for your coffee. Are you using the Keurig cups? Are you using the old school coffee makers, which are environmentally friendly and still work very well for those who do use them? Or are you doing the pour over method here? Now, I am by no means an expert in the pour over method, and I am by no means an expert in coffee. So I am looking for any tips on how to improve my pour over method. Drop them in the comments below. And any coffees, any dark roast coffees that I need to check out that aren't Starbucks dark roast, let me know in the comments below. I'm looking to do some reviews of coffees on here and just give you an idea of which coffees that I happen to like, which ones might be worth trying out. Hopefully you found this video informative. Hopefully you found this pour over method as therapeutic as I have. I really, for some reason, I don't know why, enjoy it. As you can see, I do tend to make a fairly big cup, and I still find it strong. Even at that 12 grams, making a fairly big cup of coffee does tend to be extremely strong for me, and I happen to think it's the reason because I'm using that Starbucks dark roast coffee. As far as the filters that I get these number 2 Melita filters. I do go with the ones that aren't white. The reason is the ones that are white are actually bleached. To get those to be white, they actually have to bleach those, and I just prefer to, I don't necessarily notice a preference or a difference. I just prefer the ones that aren't necessarily bleached, that come in naturally brown. And when I finish doing this pour over, what I will do with these, because these coffee grounds will be damp, I simply will just throw it in a bucket that I later put in the compost. These make for excellent compost because essentially they're just ground beans. So there you go. And cleanup is just as simple as making sure that there's any residue or water left over. You just kind of dump it out and put it back. These electric water heaters are super efficient, super easy, and super quick. And this coffee smells great. Super excited to dig into this. So enough of this video. Hopefully you found it informative. If you're interested in future coffee videos down the road, make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And of course, check in the comments below. As usual, thanks for watching, and don't save anything for the trip back.